Imagine a nuclear war, but one fought entirely by nature.
12,800 years ago, the sky above the northern hemisphere did not just turn dark, it exploded.
In a geological heartbeat, a world of lush megafauna was incinerated by cosmic fire, then instantly plunged into a deep freeze that lasted more than 1,000 years.
This is not the plot of a science fiction novel. It is the forensic reality of the Younger Dryas Impact Event.
For decades, standard geology taught us that the end of the last ice age was a slow, gradual process. We were wrong.
The evidence buried in the soil tells a different story. A story of sudden, violent catastrophe. But there is another layer to this mystery. One that has haunted our collective memory for millennia.
The ancient philosopher Plato wrote of a great advanced civilization, Atlantis, that was... For centuries, modern scholars dismissed this as a fable, a moral allegory with no basis in fact.
But if you do the math, if you look at the specific date Plato gave for the destruction of Atlantis, it aligns perfectly, almost suspiciously, with the exact scientific dating of the Younger Dryas cataclysm and the rapid rise in global sea levels known as meltwater pulse 1b.
Is this mere coincidence? Or are we looking at the actual historical record of a lost chapter in human history?
Welcome to Prehistoric Planet 3D.
We will journey back to the moment the world burned and froze, examining the black mats of charcoal, and the global flood myths that point to a terrifying truth.
Buckle up! The timeline is about to break.
To understand the magnitude of the disaster, we must first stand in the world that was lost. If you could...
Walking among these giants were humans. The archaeological record identifies them as the Clovis culture.
The great ice sheets were retreating and dominated by monsters. This was the epoch of the megafauna. Huge herds of woolly mammoths, 6 tons of shaggy muscle and ivory, migrated across the steppes.
They sheared the landscape with the American lion, the short-faced bear, and the saber-toothed cat, the ultimate ambush hunter. The ecosystem was robust, diverse, and seemingly invincible. It had survived the depths of the... Walking among these giants were humans. The archaeological record identifies them as the Clovis culture, named after the distinctive fluted stone spear points first discovered in New Mexico.
For a long time, the standard academic narrative painted these people merely as nomadic big game hunters.
We now know that human society at this specific time was far more complex. Across the ocean in modern-day...
This was not a simple campsite. It was a massive megalithic complex with sophisticated stonemasonry.
Built 6,000 years before Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the pyramids.
The existence of Göbekli Tepe proves that 12,900 years ago, humanity possessed...
It suggests that the hunter-gatherer label might be a drastic oversimplification. If they could build Göbekli Tepe, what else were they building?
Could there have been other centers of civilization, perhaps located on the fertile coastlines that are now hundreds of feet underwater?
This brings us back to Plato's timeline. The world of 12,900 years ago was not a primitive dawn.
The climate was stable, the wildlife was abundant, and humanity was on the rise.
But looking up at the night sky, everything appeared normal. The constellations drifted as they always had.
There was no warning. The Clovis hunters sharpening their spears, the mammoths grazing in the tall grass,
had no way of knowing that a stream of cosmic debris,
hidden in the darkness of space, was on a collision course with Earth.
The gun was already cocked, and the trigger was about to be pulled.
This is where the story shifts from speculation to hard science, and the Earth itself becomes the primary witness.
For years, the sudden cooling event known as the Younger Dryas was attributed to the gradual failure of ocean circulation currents. But in 2007, a team of 26 scientists shattered that tranquility. They began excavating sites. What they found was a distinct, dark layer of sediment buried a few meters beneath the modern surface. Geologists call it the black mat.
To the untrained eye, it looks like a simple streak of dirt. To a forensic investigator, it is a crime scene photograph. The black mat is rich in carbon, soot, and charcoal. It represents a layer of biomass burning on a continental scale.
In simpler terms, it is the ash left behind when the world caught fire.
But the most damning evidence is not what is visible to the naked eye. Embedded in this black layer are microspherules.
Tiny mag balls of silica that only form when rock and metal are vaporized at temperatures seeding witches.
Beside them, scientists found nanodiamonds. These are not the kind found in jewelry stores,
which are created only under the extreme shock pressure of a cosmic impact. They do not form in forest fires. They do not form in volcanic eruptions.
The smoking gun appeared in the ice cores of Greenland. Analyzing the ice layers that correspond exactly to 12,800 years ago, researchers discovered a massive spike in platinum dust.
Platinum is rare on Earth's surface but abundant in meteorites. The concentration found in the ice indicates that a massive quantity of platinum was injected into the atmosphere.
This platinum anomaly serves its timestamp.
Skeptics have long asked a valid question. If a massive object hit the Earth, where is the crater? Where is the hole?
The answer lies in the nature of the weapon. The cosmic shotgun theory suggests that we were not hit by a single, solid rock. Instead, the Earth likely intersected with the dense debris tail of a disintegrating comet, perhaps the progenitor of the torrid meteor stream. These fragments would have detonated in the atmosphere as airbursts. An airburst does not leave a traditional crater. It delivers a thermal shockwave.
Furthermore, if the larger fragments struck the North American ice sheet, the crater would be carved into ice, not bedrock.
The pieces of the puzzle are locking into place. The absence of a single crater was never evidence of absence.
Here is where the investigation takes a turn into the most controversial territories of history.
For centuries, the story of Atlantis has been relegated to the realm of fantasy. But when we overlay the timeline
of the Younger Dryas event onto the timeline provided by Plato, the results are statistically unsettling.
In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes the destruction of a technologically advanced civilization.
He writes that the story was handed down from Egyptian priests to his ancestor Solon.
Solon visited Egypt around 600 BC. Do the math. Gives us a date of roughly 11,600 years ago.
A moment known as Meltwater Pulse 1b. This was when the deep freeze ended as abruptly as it began, and global temperatures skyrocketed. We are not talking about a slow creep of water over centuries. We are talking about a vertical wall of water that raised.
The Great Flood is not just a biblical parable. It is a geological fact confirmed by coral reef core samples from around the world. Every major culture on Earth shares a foundational myth of a catastrophic flood that wiped out an earlier humanity. Consider the implications of this sea level rise for archaeology. Humans have always built their greatest cities on coastlines. Today, those coastlines are buried under hundreds of feet of ocean water. We have explored less than 5% of our oceans.
The synchronization is too precise to be dismissed.
Plato described an island empire rich in minerals, destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune by earthquakes and floods.
The Younger Dryas Impact theory provides the mechanism for exactly that kind of destruction.
We are left with a haunting possibility. That Atlantis was not a myth, but a memory.
Yes. A memory of a golden age that was literally washed away, carrying nothing but the trauma of the event that...
So, what did the end of the world actually look like? Based on the
Forellos. It did not begin with a sound, but with a light. The sky over the northern hemisphere was sharing.
These were not small shooting stars. They were mountains of rock and ice moving at 40,000 miles per hour.
Friction with the atmosphere turned them into incandescent plasma torches. The first warning was a flash.
Then came the heat. It was a pulse of pure infrared energy, intense enough to ignite damp forests instantly. Across North America, millions of acres of vegetation burst into flames simultaneously. This is the moment the black mat was created, a layer of soot from a continental firestorm that consumed 10% of Earth's biomass.
But the fire was only the opening act. As the larger fragments slammed into the 2-mile-thick Laurent ice sheet,
the kinetic energy released was equivalent to the entire nuclear arsenal of the Cold War detonating at once.
This triggered the mega floods. Imagine a wall of water 2,000 feet high, moving at 8 miles per hour.
This water didn't just flow. It scoured the bedrock down to the bone, creating the channeled scablands of Washington state.
A landscape so scarred and violent that it looks like it belongs on Mars.
Finally, after the fire and the flood, came the silence. It blocked out the sun. Temperatures plummeted. The warm interzeal climate was strangled, and the Earth was kicked back into a freezing darkness.
Animals that had managed to escape the fire were frozen where they stood, encased in mud and ice, so rapid the master hunters of the Clovis culture found their world erased. The golden age was over. The long winter had begun.
In the freezing darkness that followed, humanity changed. The survivors emerged into a hostile, unrecognizable world. If there was advanced knowledge of astronomy, of architecture, of mathematics, it was lost in the struggle for basic survival.
We became a species with amnesia, wandering the ruins of our own planet, forgetting where we came from and what we had achieved.
It took us thousands of years to climb back up the ladder of civilization, to relearn how to build, how to farm. But the trauma remained, encoded in our myths of dragons in the sky and floods on the earth.
Perhaps the most chilling realization is not about the past, but the present. The debris field that caused this catastrophe is still there, a vast river of rocks and dust floating in space.
And the Earth still passes through it twice every year, in late June and early November.
But astronomers warn that hidden within that stream are larger fragments, massive dormant rocks that we haven't identified yet.
The event that reset civilization 12,800 years ago was not a freak accident. We are drifting through a cosmic minefield, assuming that because we have been safe for a few millennia. History, as written in the soil and the ice, suggests otherwise.
This brings us to the end of our journey into the deep past. The Younger Dryas Impact hypothesis challenges everything we thought we knew.
It suggests that we are not the first rise of humanity, but perhaps the second.
It reminds us that our dominance on this planet is fragile, fragile.
If this investigation has sparked your curiosity, then our mission is accomplished.
Do you believe the evidence points to a lost civilization like Atlantis? Or do you think the mystery remains unsolved?
For more journeys into the lost chapters of Earth history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell.